Hello, everybody. It is Fulfilling Relationship Week at the Intentional Living Project. I'm Elena Fournet, and I'm here with passion expert Joanna Kennedy today, who is going to shed some light on how we can remove 3 barriers to chemistry, attraction, and passion. Joanna, thanks so much for being with us today.
It's really good to be with you.
Anna, can you tell us a little bit about your story? What got you into this work around intimacy and passion?
Absolutely. And what I can say is that I never in a million years would have imagined myself doing this. And so I'm, as many guides out there, I come from a very personal journey in this space of, in a nutshell, growing up in the heart of the women's movement, growing up with the first divorced family in the neighborhood. And through that, I learned a lot of things about what women should be and how men are. And let's just say that none of it was true in hindsight. But I had a lot of challenging beliefs about men, about relationships, about trust, and felt compelled that I had to prove myself in the world, and part of proving myself was proving that I was better than men in every way, shape, or form, and that I never needed to depend on them. And that brought me a fair amount of professional success and a whole lot of misery and tears in my personal life. And my wake-up call to one of the things that we'll talk about when we talk about the barriers was what it is to really create the spark in the chemistry. And that wake-up call had me leave my electrical engineering, oil and gas business career to know that I was really committed to helping women get to be the women that they are so that they can attract the man that they really want, and to help men get to be the men that they are, because there's been so much confusion about those two things and how we're supposed to do relationship. And so my journey has been through every aspect of relationship dynamics, sacred sexuality, intimacy, spiritual healing, so that we can be great men and great women, and together we can make magic.
Beautiful. So you mentioned wanting to, ignite that spark and also understand what it means to be a woman or be a man in relationship. When your clients come to you, what are their goals, or what is it they're really looking for?
People come for different reasons. A couple of the most common reasons that people come is they're not finding the relationship that they want. I work with predominantly singles, some couples, but predominantly singles who are either coming out of a relationship and they're like, God, I'm tired of it not working. How do I make this work? Or I keep meeting the same kind of guy and the same kind of guy, and they're not emotionally available, or they never want to make a commitment, or, I love it. I was telling a prospective client this morning, and he said, there's no women my age. And I hear that all the time. And yet I'll be talking in the morning to a woman in their 40s or 50s. And then in the afternoon, the guy in the 40s and 50s, and they'd be great connections, but they both believe the partner isn't out there. So they're coming with, why can't I find my partner? Why doesn't it work when I do get in a relationship? This is a good one. We're better friends and roommates than we are lovers. So those are some of the reasons that men and women come to me and want to jump into work and programs.
Great. So it seems like those are some of the challenges that your clients can see on the front end. There's not enough women out there. I really don't want to commit. We just make better friends. But as a practitioner, what do you see? What are the real challenges that they're facing?
Great question. The real challenges often have to do with, it's the inside game. It's confidence. It's those that have been there and had heartbreak, and we don't know that we put up walls of protection, and we don't know that we said, I'm never going to let myself get hurt again. And what we do when we say, I'm never going to let myself get hurt again, is we don't have a chance of having love again either, because the risk is too big. And so we wonder why I can date and we can go for a little while in a relationship, but then we always seem to break up. There's always something wrong. It's the internal mechanisms. So confidence is a huge one. I see women who, and again, this plays into the barriers, and actually men too, it just looks different in the two sexes, is women who are so strong and so powerful that they can never find a man that's strong enough or powerful enough for them. And they're the ones that walk around and go, there's no really strong men. There's no, what happened to all the good guys? And the problem is that there's an aspect of chemistry and attraction that's like magnets. And if we're bringing energy that is too similar, we actually become the magnets that repel. It's like bringing the two positive ends of a magnet together and they push each other away. And so I also see this, or it's men who've tried to be the nice guy and they always end up in the friend zone, or the quote, nice guys finish last. And so much of it is about honoring who I am as a person and being that in an extraordinary way. And then I'm going to attract a relationship. So it's getting back the mojo for men. It's getting back the presence and the essence of a woman. And then relationship can spark in a whole lot of new ways.
Beautiful. So when we're ready, when we're really ready to have that attraction and the chemistry and the passion, what are some of the barriers that we can be looking out for? What are the 3 biggest barriers to getting all of that?
And I've kind of alluded to all 3 because there are a lot of the reasons that people come to me. But the very first one is the idea of Mr. Nice Guy and Mrs. Nice Girl. And what we think by saying, oh yeah, that's okay with me, when internally it's really not, or when we don't want to cause a conflict. And so we say, it's all right, I just want to get through this, or she'll be upset, or, oh, I don't want him to leave. All of those reasons that we set ourselves aside destroy relationship. What we think we're doing is trying to stay connected. Our actions are actually doing the exact opposite. We're trying to do this, and we're actually doing this. And so putting ourselves first, knowing who we are, what our needs are, what our desires are, what our turn-ons are, then we can show up in relationship. And then we can have spark between 2 really alive people who know who they are. So the barrier is being the nice girl, the nice guy that's inauthentic. And the key is to be real. And that's what somebody falls in love with. That's what somebody wants to make love to and with. So that's the first one. Let's see, the second one, I forgot you gave me the space to talk about all 3. So the second one is actually the idea of the differences between men and women. And so the barrier is thinking that we are the same. And the key to solving that is actually understanding the opposite sex on an entirely new level. One of my teachers says that we often, as women, will look at men. This was actually Alison Armstrong, and it so made sense to me. She said, women look at men as if they're just, women look at men as if they're hairy women, and men look at women as if they're just curvy men. And it's so true. She's got she totally is spot on with that one, because we expect our partner to act like we do. And yet we don't actually want them to. And it's a catch-22. And so this is a source of incredible frustration and confusion and conflict. And if we understood each other, and that my needs are completely different than a man's needs, that my turn-ons are extraordinarily different than a man's, and how I'm going to get to my peak of my sexuality, hugely different. I like to say, if the kitchen appliance analogy of turn on with men and women. So if men were like a kitchen appliance, they'd probably be more like a microwave. And if women were a kitchen appliance, they'd be much more like a crock pot. And so guys, if you want a juicy woman at night, you've got to turn her on in the morning and tend to her throughout the day. But if we expect each other, even communications, if I just take sexuality and communication, there's over 50 different differences that we could look at. And so it's critical to really understand those differences. And so the understanding and celebrating the opposite sex is the key to remove the barrier of, oh yeah, we're the same. And then the last one is the piece about chemistry, and it's this magnetism. The third barrier is really the idea of equality and independence. See, we can't have a relationship if it's two totally independent people that aren't willing to actually be in partnership. In partnership, it's essential that we have interdependence. And so the total standing apart, independent, sabotages the connection and the intimacy. And simultaneously, this idea, this was me, total equality, which yes, we're equal between the genders, absolutely. And do the same things make us happy? Do the same things ignite the greatness in us? They don't. And we want to have that polarity, the spark of the masculine and feminine. And so the key behind the equality and independence barrier is actually to know your sexual essence and live it. And it doesn't matter. So I predominantly work with heterosexual relationships, but it doesn't matter. Much of the time, the same concept exists in same-sex relationships where we've got the spark of the different energies. And so often now today, it's women coming back into their femininity. The majority of women actually have core feminine energy. Majority of men have core masculine. Sometimes it's reversed, and that's perfect. We just need to know which one's authentic for me. Am I living it in my relationship so that I can have the spark, the chemistry, that hot, passionate kiss against the wall is happening because I know how to attract it because I'm living in my sexual essence. So those are the barriers and the keys to solving them.
Yeah, great. Joanna, you got so much valuable and powerful information into a really short amount of time. If our listeners want to get a little bit more of you, I know you have a Passionate Love Jumpstart Kit. Can you tell us just briefly about that?
Yeah, it's a way, there's 3 different elements in it. And one of it is the 7 secrets to great sex. And then there's a couple other things that talk about lasting love. And there's an ebook about creating lasting love in there. So it's all kinds of different juicy tidbits, just like we've been talking about here, to really start to wake up. Oh, that's possible. Oh, that's how I have a little more spark. And so, yes, it's a great way to get started and know more of what's actually possible and available.
And again, there sounds like there's a lot included in that one Jumpstart Kit. So I encourage you to go get Joanna's Passionate Love Jumpstart Kit. You will find the link to her website below this video, as well as on our worksheet that you can print off, and you'll have a little summary of what Joanna has shared with us today, as well as links to her and her information. And now it's your turn. We want to hear from you. What have been your stumbling blocks or your barriers to passionate chemistry and deep attraction? Please post your comment below, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you next week for what comes up next week. Oh, we'll have a guest presenter. Our newsletter will come out, and then the following week we'll be back to optimal health. Take care, everybody. Thanks again, Joanna.
Thank you. This was fun.